wood plinths are interactive. So this gentleman walks up there and Gifford Pinchot starts talking to him about this idea of public lands and where it came from. And I mentioned these plinths because this is where BCHA comes in handy, or comes into play. Here's an introductory theater where Roosevelt talks to them about the idea. It's a Roosevelt actor. And here's the main exhibit hall. It's about a 4,500 square foot main exhibit hall. You see this huge 20 by 60 digital screen on the north wall. There are 15 different themes going on in the exhibit hall: forest and mountain, watersheds and habitats. But they're not just like kind of pretty pictures on this wall, but each of the themes has an interactive component to it. This one is watersheds and habitats. So when this gentleman and his daughter walk up here, they pump one of those old campground pumps, and information about watersheds spills out onto the floor and comes up onto the screen. Like, what is a watershed? You know, we all live in watersheds. Really important concept, one of the 15 different conservation history themes that we're introducing to our visitors. So again, these are interactive exhibits. The saddle is another interactive. You touch the horn and information comes up on prairies and rangelands. Really important part of our public lands, the grasslands that are in our country. Of these 15 different themes, recreation is one of them. We'll come back to that camper because it is also visitor activated when a visitor approaches that. But here you come into the sort of center of the exhibit hall. Wilderness is a big theme. You all deal with wilderness a lot because you go back in wilderness and improve trails in those areas where you can't drive. Mm-hmm. And often we have, in fact, I'm going to pause it here because we do on-site on our campus education programs with kids working with 9 Mile, the 9 Mile Pack team, and they've come out here. You all helped build this corral for us. And so they bring the pack team out here and with middle school students talk to them about backcountry horse and packing animals, and the kids sort of, you see their mouths drop because they ask, why don't you just drive back there, right? And so this whole concept of wilderness and you can't drive in certain sections is very new to them. Mm-hmm. And they also ask, well, and they see the 9 Mile team, and it's like, you're still using horses to go back? So for kids, it's a really important educational kind of theme to go, yep, that's what's needed to get back into those areas. So wilderness is a huge, huge theme. And again, kids are really important to this, young people, to introduce them to this theme. This is a really neat exhibit. It's called Rings of Change. This tree ring, as you can see, each ring is a decade of time. And so you slide this puck to say 1910 ring, and the Great Burn pops up, and all about that big fire that you all are familiar with. On the south part of the exhibit hall is where some of our collection will be used to kind of support the stories that are in these themes. We've got 55,000 items in our collection. I'm going to pause it through one of these. Let's see if I can, because through partnerships, I wanted to show you all. Let's see if I can go back a tad. Keep going, because that's where BCHA is in this partnership. One of these plinths here, there's conservation through science, there's fire, here's fire here, here's the big burn. Trying to see if it's in the fly-through now. You might see it on the back end. Fire, of course, is a huge contemporary theme. That's part of conservation history. Recreation, like I said, is another one of those themes. That's an evolving theme. All of these are evolving stories, right? Through time. There's the big burn on that conservation through science as that that technology is again an active sort of screen that's right there. I was trying to see, and maybe it's not in the fly-through again, but I just want to show you all, because BCHA is on this Conservation 3 Partners right here. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but it's a partnership plinth, and on this plinth is where those photographs and where the information about BCHA is all about.
Where on that? What you're calling them a plinth?
Yeah.
Is that
That's,
this or is that this?
Well, the plinths are different sizes. The tall ones sort of announce the theme, and then on the shorter ones are where the information and the stories are held.
Okay, so this is a dynamic thing that can be changed and stories added to it, or is this?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like a kiosk type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a kiosk kind of thing. Here is where the interactive is as far as the kiosk. We can change all of the stories in here. You know, there are hundreds of stories, and we've had to kind of pick and choose for starters some of the stories. And BCHA was one of the ones that we wanted to start with, just because of that partnership. How many hundreds of thousands of volunteer hours that you all have done. So that's where you all will be centered in that Conservation 2 Partners, because it's such a great example of that kind of partnership with the Forest Service. It's about like I said, about a 4,500 square foot exhibit hall. Most of the exhibits, we worked with an exhibit design firm for about 4 years to come up with these themes, and working with a scriptwriter to come up with the stories. But of course worked with Smoke and others with BCHA to get the photographs and that story there in the exhibit hall. So as mentioned, recreation, you know, that's an evolving story. It includes equestrian use, of course, but off-road vehicles have come into the picture, you know, over the past 20, 25 years. So that makes the story and the policy a little more complicated, right? For multiple use, you know, how do horses and hikers and then off-road vehicles, how does that work out? So that's an evolving kind of story. At the end of the exhibit, let me just go back here for a second, because this is important. We wanted visitors to kind of bookend with Roosevelt and then contemporary conservationists on what's going on today in conservation history. And so visitors get an idea, again, on the contemporary end of what's happening, and then a chance to comment on, it's about all of us. What are their views? What's their feeling, having gone through the exhibit hall, as to what they can do in conservation and conservation history today. We've got a retail space that visitors come through as they exit the exhibit hall. And here you get kind of a look at this hallway, but more importantly, these tree-like columns that support an outside roof, and then you saw them in the lobby there too. Those are each a different species of tree. Those have also been donated a lot by our state forests. Like one's a redwood, one's a Douglas fir, one's a Port Orford cedar, one's a longleaf pine. They'll have QR codes on them so visitors can learn about that particular species of tree. Importantly, we have this big outdoor space that people can go outside and relax and get an outside experience. Upstairs, we'll move our offices, but just to give an example of the amount of wood and the kind of style of the building that we'll see here in just a moment. Our offices are now Midtown, Missoula, but we'll move them out here. There's one more exhibit on the roof, and it's a lookout tower. We've got a lookout tower here, you've probably seen it, but it's a historic lookout, so it's not ADA accessible. But this one is, it's an oversized lookout. There'll be aromas and radios cackling as if you're a lookout in that space. And then we haven't really talked about where the repository is, but that's in this part of the building. Our whole collection will move out there. About 55,000 items will move out there. So that's just, again, to give you an idea kind of visually